My name is Tracy Davenport, and I don't really have too much of a backstory with dogs other than the fact that I always wanted one and I was never allowed to have one. I'm from the States originally, and we moved over to the UK in 1980. And because we were flying back and forth to the States quite a lot, my parents said there's no way you can ever have a pet. So I finally settled over here. I got married, I had children, and it seemed like a really good time. And for years, a good friend of mine who I'd worked with, had always told me about these bulldogs that he had seen. And he met this guy, and he had the biggest dog he'd ever seen. He said it was the friendliest, loveliest, chunkiest thing. I was like, well, what is it? Tell me about it. He said, it's called a Sussex Bulldog, but I've never heard anything about them other than that. And it was, going back maybe 15 years. So there wasn't, a great deal on the internet. I Googled them, but there wasn't a lot there. So I kind of let it pass for a while. And then eventually my husband agreed to letting me have a dog. This was 4 years ago now, coming close to 5. And I'd seen that a litter had been born. So I contacted the Sussex Bulldog Association and I spoke with their secretary and arranged to go and meet her. She had 3 of her own at the time, 2 females and a male. And I just wanted to see them in person, see, you can get an idea of what an animal's like through an image, but you don't get a true reflection of how they are, what they're, really like, how they move, how they behave, how they interact with other dogs, how they interact with humans. We went along to meet her, and her dogs were just spectacular. They were gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So the next step is that I arranged to go and meet Jay McDonald. He's one of our breeders, and he's the one that had the litter at the time. And it was a massive litter. All of these dogs have huge litters. It was a litter of 12 pied and white, black and white pieds, and also solid blacks. And because I was kind of late to the party, there was only a few left that hadn't already been chosen. But the one that I picked was the smallest of the litter. She was the runt. She was the scruffiest little thing. And man, she was a handful. She made up for it. But when I went to meet her, I saw her father and her mother, and compared to the dogs that I'd met previously, they were enormous. They were so big. So again, I found myself just completely gobsmacked. I chose this little puppy, and then a few weeks later I was able to go collect it, bring it home, and it was, for me, as never having had a dog before, it was a bit of a baptism of fire.
Right,
she, as with all of them, they have very much their own mind and their own will. And to go with it, they're very strong animals, the bigger they get, obviously. So I spent a lot of time reading. I read a lot of books, which I found helped me loads, and did a lot of research about how I should be with them. And that did the trick beautifully. In the beginning, she really took advantage of me. I thought, hang on, this thing is, she's 3 months old and she's ruling the roost. I need to change things. So once I learned a lot more and I learned how to treat her, learned how she could fit into the family, it was great. It was absolutely brilliant. She was the best animal I'd ever owned. She was just amazing. She was my best friend. I took her everywhere with me. I took her to business meetings. I took her to the pub. I took her out to restaurants. I took her everywhere. I was never without her. She was the most amazing animal. Eventually, David Brown, who is the creator of the breed, approached me and he said, look, she's a really good specimen of the breed. Would you be open to breeding her? And I said, of course, she was such an amazing dog. I felt ashamed to not pass that on. So we bred her. And a little over a year ago, she had a litter. And which was amazing. And she was bred with actually a much older dog. So luckily for me, it was quite a small litter. Sadly, she had a fall about 10 days after she had the litter and became paralyzed. And we had to say goodbye to her about a week later. And then I had to hand puppies. But we had to try and keep her alive long enough so that I could get the puppies weaned. So that was a really difficult time. But I did have the puppies, who I've named Bunny, and I have her now, just like her mother, very tenacious, real handful, but I wouldn't have her any other way. She's amazing. I said goodbye to her mother, and then I had the 4 puppies that I raised here. David was wonderful. He was such a huge help. He was there at the end of the phone, at all hours of the day, because I'd never done it before. I didn't have a clue really how things worked in practice. Again, you read about how things should be and how it's supposed to be, but until you have first-hand experience, you're never really too sure. So he was really an amazing guiding hand through the whole experience. So he and I and a lady called Nicola Jardine, she and I and he, we all found good homes for them, which isn't easy because David is very particular about who the puppies go to. He wants them to just go out to anybody, because it only takes one poor owner to ruin the reputation of the breed, and that's his lifetime's work. So every owner for every single one of these dogs is handpicked. So we found lovely families for all of mine. David actually kept one of them himself, and he's called Norton. Bit of a handful as well. That was all lovely, and because it was such a traumatic experience losing my best friend, David very kindly, with the next litter that was born, he gifted me a puppy from that litter, which was incredible. And he said, it's not a replacement, but it's just an acknowledgement of what you did for us and for the breed. And, I've had a litter, you come and choose whichever one you want. So I got to pick my second puppy, Dallas. So I have 2 bitches, Bunny and Dallas, and Bunny is now almost 14 months, and Dallas is 10 months. So I have my hands full at the minute, but I wouldn't have it the other day. They're very different personalities. Dallas she just wants to cuddle you and snuggle all the time, but she's also extremely playful. And Bunny is very clever and sharp and has a real mind of her own. And I take her out to the woods, and I love watching her run. So she goes out into the woods and she runs and she jumps over all of the trees and chases things, and she's so beautiful. She's like watching a deer almost. And then Dallas is more of a traditional Bulldog mover. She's, solid. She'll go through anything, But yeah, I've got pretty much the 2 extremes of what you can have in the breed in terms of personality and appearance. I wouldn't have it any other way. They're just so lovely, and they bring so much to my family. They're perfect with the kids. The kids just hang all over them. They're so robust and tough. They can take anything. I trust them 100%. And I have known other dogs in the past, but couldn't say that I have ever trusted them 100% with my children. These guys, I've never had the slightest bit of concern. They belong to this family. They know their place in this family, and it just makes it all work so well. So now that the girls are a little bit older, I've started them doing agility, which has been lovely. And I also take them to weekly dog training, which is they need to walk on a lead properly, and you need to know that they're not going to pull you over if they see a squirrel, and you need to know that they're not chase after other dogs, because they're quite, the way that they look can be quite intimidating to many other dog owners. They see them coming and they think, oh God, it's going to eat my little terrier or something. But they're not like that at all. They love the company of other dogs. I had them in the kennels actually at the weekend, and there's a man here, and he's been a dog man all his life. He's always owned and trained gun dogs, and he owns a kennel now. And he has a big field where he lets all of the dogs out. And he said, oh, I'm just going to assess your two just to make sure they'll be all right. He said, just like Bunny's mother, he said, I can't fault them. The way that they interact with other dogs, they're very respectful, but they don't take any nonsense. They don't start trouble. They like to play. He said, I couldn't ask for better guests to interact with the rest of the population of dogs. So, hearing that is always really nice. You always believe it in your heart, but hearing it from somebody that is a professional that's always worked with dogs, it's really nice to hear.
Right,
so
exactly.
That's kind of where we're up to. They are very standard. You do, occasionally, you seem to get almost like a rogue that seems to be very large and almost like a mastiff. But the rest of them do tend to be of a very standard size. In terms of coloring, you get all colors. There are brindles, there's black and whites, there's pieds, there's chocolates, there's reds, there's everything really. So whatever color you fancy, you can pretty much get. Let me see, Bunny, my black one, she's very muscular and lean, very athletic. And because she's only sort of just one, I don't know how her head will fill out in terms of size. With my previous bit, her head didn't complete growing until she was just over 2 years old. With Dallas, I could see that she is going to be much bigger than Bunny. She may not be quite full, but she's definitely stockier. She has a thicker neck, a broader set on the shoulders, and her head is already bigger. And it does tend to be that the chocolates have the slight edge on the weightiness of their size and the head size. My previous bitch, she settled at 45 kilos in weight. Okay. She was slightly on the larger size for a bitch. But other than that, like I said, I'm fairly new to it. I'm incredibly passionate about the dogs. I've just, they're everything to me now. I love it. If there's a new litter that's born, I go and see them. I go and visit David's dogs all the time. I go and see Nicola's dogs. I just love being with them. I love going out in a massive pack. You have David's dogs, Nicola's dogs, my dogs. They all go out together, and it's a to be reckoned with when you see so many of them really tearing around and doing that rough bulldog play. It's brilliant.
Absolutely.
Really love it. David created the breed. The breed became stable in 1984. And what he was looking for is, he loved the Bulldog, but he wanted a dog that was more robust in terms of the traditional English Bulldogs have a lot of skin allergies. They have breathing problems with their soft palate. They're, whelping. There's quite a long list of problems. As lovely as they are, I wouldn't want one because it feels like it's a heartbreak waiting to happen, because they haven't met one that hasn't needed a lot of medical attention. So he has created this breed. I mean, David himself has a background. His father was a farmer, and his background was, from a young child, he bred sheepdogs and performance dogs. So he wanted to create a performance bulldog. So they seem to be, of course, they feel the heat, but not anything like an English Bulldog. They do prefer the cooler temperatures, but I think most dogs do. They love the water, they love the sand, they love everything. They're very happy. Nothing puts them off going out. They are a breed that if there were to be a nuclear apocalypse tomorrow, David wanted them to be able to survive. And, I take Bunny out and she often catches rabbits and kills and eats them there on the spot. And Bunny just seems to be very good at everything, all aspects. From standing, she can jump really high.
Oh, wow.
Really, really high. She is like a rabbit, which is kind of why we called her Bunny, because from the get-go, she hopped everywhere, as a little pup, and it just kind of stuck. She's an extremely fast runner. She's, very good at jumping. See that when we take her in the woods, she just flies through the woods, darts in and out of the trees, jumps over the dead trees. She's so agile. So when I take her to the agility courses, they were starting her off on very low jumps, and I was like, really, that's not going to be a problem. She got off and she was jumping over these jumps and going over the A-frames and through the tubes, and the woman was like, oh, she's not afraid, is she? And that's another thing. They're very confident, which I've found in the past. It's dogs that are not confident are the ones that tend to bite and tend to be slightly more of a loose cannon. And these guys, they're all very confident in themselves and very secure. And it doesn't seem to rile or create problems with other dogs, if you see what I mean. It brings things down. It calms things when they're in amongst a big group of dogs. They're just quiet and calm, Sorry, I'm not, like I said, I'm just an owner, and I've not had dogs for terribly long compared to most people. And I can only speak about, the things that I have personally experienced, but they are very confident. Right. I live in the countryside, but we also live near the sea, and it's an upside down house, so we have a balcony. And when the dogs are out there, there's a sheep field in front of the house, and when the dogs are out there, if they see other dogs, you see the heckles go up and you hear the low rumble, and it goes right through you. It's for lack of a better term, it's actually quite thrilling to feel that. But it's also good to know that they're always watching. One of my dogs particularly has an alarm bark, and it's very distinctive. She hears an unusual noise outside of the house in the middle of the night. You'll get that. You'll get an early. I know a lot of people try to train that sort of thing out of their dogs, but I think part of the reason why my husband agreed to let me get a dog is because he often worked away, and I was with the children. And at the time, we lived much closer to a city, and there had been a spate of break-ins and things, and I just felt a little bit, vulnerable. And having a dog gives you that confidence, and it gives you that sense of security for yourself and for your children, when you are on your own. And I know for a fact that I have nothing to worry about when they are here. If there was ever any danger, they would guard me with their lives. Anybody that is in our family, our house, they would be there. But they're also not unnecessarily overboard, if you see what I mean. They're not they're barking at every little thing that goes past. They're generally very quiet dogs. They're not barkers. It's only really if they sense something to be alarmed about that you'll hear them bark. So, yeah.
Right.
But he was looking for a very specific combination of attributes, and it took him a long time to get there. But when he did, because with all of the dogs, since since he got the stability in what he was looking for, only he can agree the pairings between any of the dogs and bitches out there. And himself and Mr. Darren Henwood, only two that can agree to the pairings, because they go back through the family history to look at who would be right for each other and also what's currently available. It's not something that's taken lightly. Dogs, and I know, of course, I'm biased because I love my dogs. I love my dogs than any of the others. But it would be such a shame not to pass it on. So I think, and David has said to me, very kindly, if that's something that we can come to an arrangement with, then he would take the bitch the week before she's due. And I know at the moment that he's building a whelping kennel, and he said I can take her and manage that side of things through that period of time, and basically take the workload off of my shoulders. So he's been very, very kind and very generous through my experience, and I think that's part of the reason why I've another part of the whole thing that I'm attracted to in the breed is that he's a real stand-up guy. What you see is what you get, and what he tells you is going to happen is going to happen. You don't get much around. You know where you're at, and you know that if you ever at any point needed help with any of your dogs, they will take them back. If you, for example, I know in the past that a few of the owners, they have lived in rented accommodation and had to move and have been unable to take their dogs with them. So the association takes them back in and finds them new homes and manages all of that, to make sure that they're going into place instead of into shelters. So, again, I just feel that it's all very responsibly done. And, the genuine, due care and attention to each and every one of these animals. It would be, yeah. Where I lived previously was much more urban. We lived very close to the city, and my previous dog, as I said, I took her to, I had a lot of meetings in the city, and I would take her with me, and she was always fine, no problems there. But that they are a big dog that has a lot of energy, so that does need to be used. If you don't, a tired dog is a good dog, and it's not just physical activity. I mean, I walk my dogs, it is a commitment, it's a lifestyle, having dogs like, I walk my dogs normally between an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, but beyond that, for to wear them out, you have to do training to mentally exhaust them, because the more you walk them, the fitter they get. So you'll never get to a point where they're like, nah. I mean, I used to run a lot, and with my previous dog, I'd run up to 17 miles, and she was okay with it.
Wow.
Yeah. For a 45-kilo dog, that's not bad going.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's great.
I mean, that's just an indication of, how sporting they are. They're, I always refer to my bitches as being game, because they're game for it. They're always up for whatever challenge you put in front of them, and they always do it. But like I said, the training is key. You need, with any dog, you need to train if you want it to blend into society well. And when you've got two big dogs, that's even more important, because it's always the person with the small dog that says, your dog bit my dog, or your dog attacked my dog, your dog is harassing my dog. And the fact of the matter is, it's always like the Jack Russells that come up and bite your dog first. If my dog were to behave that way, you would have it put down. The Jack Russell's always the one that comes along and gets underneath and tears the stomach out of another dog, and they're like, oh, but it's only little. And no.
Yeah. Yeah, those dogs, people underestimate those breeds for sure, especially the ones that are bred to hunt. So
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
very, very, very aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah. See a lot of that here. Being in the countryside, you get a lot of ratters.
Yeah, a lot of. Do you see a lot of Patterdales and a lot of
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jaggeds
Yeah,
and a lot of Jack Russells? I'm sure.
dogs.
Yeah.
A lot of hunting dogs, ratters, sheepdog.
Yeah.
There's a lot of working dogs, which is
Yeah.
great. Brilliant that the dogs are working.
Yeah.
That's what they should be doing.
Exactly.
And that, part of my philosophy with my dogs is that they have to earn their food. So I've only just given them their breakfast, and it's 1:00 because I didn't get a chance earlier to take them out and walk them and do the training that I need to do with them. But they have to wait until that's all done before they get their.
Right. When David created the breed, did he have any kind of jobs that he was wanting these dogs to do, like any professional guardian or personal protection or hunting or anything like that? Was he?
I think because, as I said before, he comes from a working dog background. So I think mostly like sheep dogs and farm dogs. I know in the early days, he placed quite a few of them into farms for working purposes, and some of them went into hunt as well. And I know that all of them did very well at whichever given home they were put into. They were very successful. I don't know where he specifically had in mind for them, but I think given that he put them into hunt and into farm work is an indication of he mentally had them placed. But to get the true answer to that, you might have to ask him that question.
Right.
Certainly at one point David was looking to work towards. I don't know if that is still the case, because there's a few issues, I think, with Kennel Club registered dogs, or the way that the Kennel Club is run here in the UK. I know that it's something that he was looking at one point, but I don't know if he has continued with that at the moment, or whether he's just very busy and can't at the moment. Vets and everybody was giving their perspective on the British Bulldog, and it seemed very strange to me that all of the breeders that were Kennel Club and very well known in the Kennel Club felt that the way that they were breeding was that they didn't see a problem with it, and they were using basically a given gene pool, standard, the gene pool that there is, and just interbreeding and interbreeding and interbreeding. And the offset of that is that the problems that these dogs have been suffering with is the offset is that they're becoming worse over time. So if you look back to, for example, 1980, the problems with the British Bulldog were less than you see now. So it's getting exacerbated over time because it's becoming more inbred. And this is what the vets that were interviewed were having to say. And a lot of owners were obviously, very heartbroken because they had so many health issues and they couldn't afford to constantly pay out. Insurance companies won't pay out. And if you have a bulldog or a dog that is classed as a bulldog, your pet insurance is 3 times as much as it is for any other breed. So people can't afford the insurance. So, one of the things about the Sussex Bulldog is that because it's not a Kennel Club registered breed, in terms of insurance, I can get a much reduced rate.
Okay.
Because it's classed as a Bulldog cross or a, Mastiff cross, or, it can be sort of classed in a different way. So you can kind of get around that. In terms of the Kennel Club, I think until they straighten a few things out in their ideology of how the dog should be bred, I think it's a bit off-putting to a lot of people. You don't. It's like with Frenchies and the pugs and all of these type dogs, people are breeding them in excess and they're causing so many problems. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, and those are two great breeds that are going to go straight down the same path that the English Bulldog has. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad to see. Yeah, I hope they can correct it someday. But until then, like, I'll be looking at something like the Sussex or something on those lines with my next Bulldog. So.
Oh, we can have ship it over to you.
Yeah.
First person in America. Funnily enough, there were a few people that I know in the States that were family, friends that were interested in getting one. So yeah, you'll have to let me know if that's the way you want to go, though, for sure. I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
David, he did have an annual show which went on for quite a few years. I think basically that had been run for quite a few years, but then David's work life kind of took over, and he's been really busy for the past couple of years and hasn't been able to facilitate doing it. Again, it's something that we would love to bring back, because it's just so lovely to see all of these magnificent dogs together. So it's one of those little plans that Nicola and I are hatching together. So I wouldn't be surprised to do it again in the next few years. But we do have an annual meet always. I mean, we've met 2 or 3 times this year, so that's all brilliant anyway. But in terms of an official show with placements and, you know, going around a ring and seeing the movement and, you know, checking the stature of the dogs, we need to get on board with that.